Hey there. Well, I'm back home here in Irvine after my first week, just 2 days though, as the new project manager for the city of Ventura, California. So I want to give you a status report on what the first 2 days were like. So my mission, let's talk about the mission. The mission is to create a project management office for the city, for IT projects in particular. Initially though, I'm not going to create a portfolio and office for everything. I'm going to basically tackle the biggies first. And from there, I'll then expand out and bring in the other projects into the fold, and then lay out a timeline and a roadmap for projects into the future. I'll also be making distinctions between projects and products, where projects are more of like one-offs and products are applications or services that we build or use that have a long life cycle that require intermittent care along the way. So my role then might be changed from being a project manager and a product manager, depending on the case. And my manager seems to be on board with that, so that's a good thing. So how did it go? Well, imagine this. Imagine if you're a home builder and you were hired to come in and complete a house, but you didn't have a hand in the blueprints, designing the blueprints, or buying the materials, or planning, or even starting the construction of the house. It's already well underway. All of those decisions that were made long before you arrive. Your job is to come in midstream and complete the job. Now there's some risks associated with that, are there not? Namely the risks, the fact that you had no part in the early decisions that were made. You have to kind of just assume those risks. You might call it out, but it may serve little good. It might be better to come in with a more optimistic attitude and just know that those risks are there. And you might encounter them, and you may have to even suffer some blame for issues that were not your doing, because you didn't have a hand in identifying things early. So, but that's just the reality, right? You accept the mission, you're going to step in as a home builder, and you're going to complete the house in whatever state it's in. That's kind of what it's like to be a project manager stepping into a project midstream. Now that's exactly what it's like to be me right now, especially last week. I'm stepping into the construction project of somebody else's projects. Now, I'm very lucky that the person that's doing the projects is a very capable person. So there's another project manager that's outbound. He had the chance to have this job, but he chose not to. He didn't want to move to Ventura, so he's staying behind where he is. He's good at what he does, so I'm feeling pretty good. You know, like if you were a home builder and you stepped in and the builder before you was a competent builder, you'd feel pretty good about the job. So I do. The thing is, builders have their way of doing things. So do project managers. Now, true, there is some standardization, especially if you follow particular methods, if you follow the PMBOK method, or Agile, or if you have a PMP certification that might speak to some background in standardization. But in fact, we all tend to do things a little bit idiosyncratically, a little bit our way, as Frank Sinatra might say. So, how do you handle that? Especially when I'm literally given less than a week. In fact, 4 business days. In fact, 1 afternoon face-to-face with the project manager for him to do the onboarding. Now, he did a nice job. He prepared a nice document for me ahead of time. He sent that to me. I've had that for the last 2 weeks, and I've been working on that, using that. I've also met with him several times on the phone. We're going to meet in person on Monday, and then that's it. Yeah, I've had some anxious nights. Yeah. Wednesday night last week was not a good one. I couldn't sleep. I sat up there in my little motel, the Vegamon Motel there by downtown Ventura, staring at the ceiling thinking, what have I done? What have I taken on, you know? And largely that was because the outgoing project manager has a process and methodology that he's very familiar with, but I'm not as familiar with it. Fortunately, though, they use the same type of infrastructure, which is SharePoint, to house their project management artifacts and the tools. So do I, but they're different tools, configured in different ways. So I had the challenge. So the meat and purpose of this particular video is to talk about how, as a Q2 project manager, how am I able to leverage the Q2PM method and tools to step into the role of project manager for an organization where I was not previously the project manager. I didn't really know how I was going to do this, stepping in. Yeah, it's not that I'm winging it, but I just wasn't sure. I'd never done this. I'd never assumed somebody else's projects. You know, I've taken over projects that were like kind of handled by developers in the past, but you know, that was kind of a different thing. But taking someone else's, another PM's projects, not quite the same thing. I have to do this with 4 projects and then take on all the rest. So I kind of had an idea that the story would play a key role in this. What is the story, you ask? The story is the central theme and component of the Q2PM methodology. The story simply lives in one note online. So we do all of our project management through SharePoint Online. Every project has its own SharePoint site. So SharePoint, of course, is like business websites from Microsoft. We do this on SharePoint in the cloud. So imagine every time we have a new project, we spin up a new SharePoint site and we instantiate it from a standardized template. It has all the tools, and which are basically lists and document libraries, customized lists and document libraries. It's a template, highly refined over the last 5 years. Basically, as I keep building and making more and more SharePoint projects and running them, I learn how to make the template better, and I always make it there. And every new project gets spun out a site, and the site is chock full of all the stuff that came from here. So this is like the parent site. Then you have all the projects populating down below. Part of every site, every website for the project, is a OneNote notebook. Inside that notebook, it's structured in a very certain way. It has what's called the story. And the story is everything that's happened in the project from start to finish, from soup to nuts. Here's how it all went down. When I arrived last week, I was immediately started going, after I finished my HR rep, and I'm in no way complaining. I've been treated very well. It's a great place to work. And there's no other way that this could have gone down than just the way it did, which is, come on, Kurt, grab you by the hand. Let's go to a meeting over here. Come on, Kurt, let's go to a meeting over there. And then there's people in there I don't know their names that I saw from the onboarding document, but I don't know exactly what they're talking about. I don't have to talk about the issues. And you know how humans are, right? We're never quite clear. You know, this communication goes like that. So it's kind of confusing. And while that's happening, email, ding, ding, ding. Now everybody's starting to CC. Now they've been CCing me for a little while, but they're starting to CC me on their emails. So emails flooding in. I'm going to meetings. I'm talking to people. I'm getting with things straight. I can't quite remember things. And I stumbled a little bit. You know, it's I made some mistakes and some embarrassing ones, and I did my best. But what I came away with from that was a notebook full of stuff and an inbox full of stuff. And I came back to Irvine, back here to my home. Now, it was my Friday off, and then today's Saturday. And I literally spent the entire day yesterday going through all that content. I didn't necessarily do this in an attempt to pull things out. I was just doing it so I could get my mind around it. I wanted to understand it. I needed to know, because these emails they weren't fresh emails. They weren't first time. These were long threads that I happened to be CC'd on. So I had to go back and read all the way from the bottom and work my way up and piece the puzzle together. One email. Literally this morning, I think I spent 2.5 hours on a single email. I was a little bit worried I wasn't going to get through it all, but I did. Here's what happened, and this is the unexpected part, and this is where I wanted to make this video for any project managers, particularly any Q2 project managers out there that might find themselves in my boat. Turn to your story. For each of the projects, what I did was I opened up the story, and as every issue came across me, as every status report came by, and I spotted, risks or issues in there, I pulled those out and I place them into the story. Here's another one. There's an issue right there. Put that into the story. There's a milestone. Goes right up here. Oh, we've got a task. Let's see, where would that belong? Then I ran across one which is interesting, which is another project. It's a spin-off project, not related to this project. And I was doing that. I had all the different projects open, right? Every email would come up. It was related to one of the 4 projects. And I would pop open that one and find a place for it. And close that. Next email, pop up. Oh, there's a couple of goodies right there. Put them in. And then there was one that really stumped me because it was another project, right? It spun off another project within a project, right? So I had to find a way to put that into the story, a sub-project with all of its little tasks. And if you're familiar with the methodology, which I don't expect you are, but if you can go to Q2PM.com, there's videos there that describe it and have visuals that show how it all works. You'll know that yellow means it needs work, gray means completed, and teal, kind of like the color of the pool. That color there means that's like a short note. I began putting all that in, dropping the things in, adding the colors, because some things were closed, so I added them in and closed them in gray. Some things were open, added them in yellow. Some things were clearly important, so I put the little exclamation mark next to it. And then I put the little notes in teal, created all the associated infrastructure in the project log and risk log, and then linked it all up. And then I sat back, and I went, look at that. I've got a story. And suddenly, the projects made sense to me. Suddenly, I saw where we were. I didn't know exactly where we'd been because I didn't have all the closed items in there. I get a good idea about where we're headed, but I know where we are. Literally, for 2 of the 4 meetings right now, for 2 of the 4 projects right now, I could, with a pretty good degree of confidence, and I will have to, so this is coming, call up a meeting. Bring everybody in the room and start working through the story, asking people, bringing up particular items that we need to talk about, identifying the responsible or involved parties, and asking after their status and updating accordingly. This is what I do as a Q2PM. For the County of Riverside, I've been doing this for 6 years now, and it's a very straightforward process. Once you get it rolling, it's pretty simple. It's not very hard at all. It looks kind of neat to watch from afar because it looks like you're talking about, especially if you're not don't see my screen. It looks like I'm talking about a lot of stuff and like I know a lot of stuff, but I don't because it's just all laid out. It's like reading sheet music. I can just kind of read it and play along with the piano and okay, everybody. Well, we talked about all our items. Is there anything else from anybody else? Okay, we'll close in 10 minutes early. Have a great day. And people go away thinking like, wow, that was a really well-run project meeting. They really knew exactly what we're talking about. It's not me, it's the process. And I discovered that applying that process, making the story the centerpiece for every little bit that I found and putting it all together, and when I stepped back and looked at it from a little ways off, there I had a picture. I feel a lot better. 2 of 4. The other 2 I still need to work on. I don't have enough raw data yet. I need more raw data. That's what this coming Monday and Tuesday will be about. Getting more raw data, and then we go into like a week of holiday. So after that, I'll have time to really digest it all. And when I come back at the start of the year, I think on January 7th is our first day back. No, January 1st. I don't know. Some of those days. Maybe it's the 1st. When I come back, I won't be ready, but I'll be ready. And I think that explains it. Well, I'll go ahead and sign off for now. My wife and daughter are up shopping. My daughter asked my wife, "You want to go shopping with me?" She didn't ask me, which is cool because she knows that that's not necessarily my thing. But then Yumiko said she's probably buying something for you. We'll see. Anyway, I just bought something for her and the wife. So yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for now. I'll wish you all the best, and remember, make every meeting matter. Take care.